Hey everyone, welcome to another match of Temur Snow Control. Today we are playing Lurrus Jund Death Shadow. Going to be an interesting matchup. I think this is going to be my first Lurrus Jund matchup with Temur Snow Control, so it's going to be interesting. Opening hand is pretty slow. The curve on that one is pretty bad. No turn 2 play, nothing. And very short on lands as well. The mulligan is a keeper. We got rid of Reading Pool. We have a fetch, so we can go get another land when necessary. Right now, we just want to draw a few more spells, potentially a threat. So it's better than going to 5, I think. Especially against a Lurrus deck. Odds are our opponent is playing some form of hand disruption, so the further down we go, the worse that disruption is going to be for us. It's usually my thinking. Seal of Fire is an okay play. I'm not too worried about seeing that. I made a mistake here, and I did not play my Arkham's Astrolabe, which is a bit of a bummer. I think I was just so used to playing a turn 1 fetch and going and passing, but it's okay. We'll be able to recover from that. So we'll see if me not playing that Arkham's Astrolabe is really going to set us back too much. Yeah, that's a little annoying. Tarmogoyf comes down. Not like we'd have been able to do anything anyway. Okay, no, looks like our opponent plays Manamorphose first. In which case, that's their mistake. That's definitely a time walk that we do want to cast on our opponent. Means they don't get to draw a card, and that delays them a turn for Tarmogoyf. Lightning Bolt is interesting. It won't kill Tarmogoyf, though. We could potentially save that for Lurrus, though. Or not, considering Acquisition is coming down. In this case, given the fact that they won't be able to discard Huntmaster, it just makes sense to bolt them now. So this will be an interesting play if Ice-Fang survives, which it won't because of Seal of Fire. We can kill their Tarmogoyf. Hopefully they miss that somehow. We have no choice but to play Ice-Fang here. We can go through that motion. So let's see what we get on the draw. We get a Force of Negation. Kind of useless this turn. So we'll block. Our opponent doesn't do anything to the Ice-Fang cast, so they don't pop their Seal of Fire, which is interesting. I think they forgot the fact that Ice-Fang has Death Touch. So there we go. Ice-Fang gets Tar fired away. Euro is a pretty good draw here. Yeah, it's a pretty good draw. We get a Spell Snare, which is decent if our opponent decides to play another Tarmogoyf. It could also be pitched the Force of Negation, so that's not bad. They paid 2 life for their Watery Grave, which means it means something, right? Who pays for a shock when it's the end of their opponent's turn, unless they want to cast something or they want to lose life. So that was interesting to see. Now we can cast Euro, and I think it's probably a good call to cast him. Although we have no way of protecting him, now is the time to do it. No land on the draw. And so long as our opponent doesn't cast anything on their turn, which they don't, on our turn, I mean, which they don't, we're okay. So Lurrus comes down. I don't think they have anything in their graveyard that they can cast right now. So Tarmogoyf is going to come in. We're not going to block, right? Because they'll be able to just kill our Euro with that as well. It's not a trade I'm willing to make. Seal of Fire to our face. Alright. Another Seal of Fire. I think at this point we'll stem the bleeding there. A mana leak on the draw, which is pretty good, actually. Actually, not so much. Our opponent has 6 land, but it could still be useful. Because we can... Yeah, okay, there we go. So our opponent just kind of conceded there. We're going to swing in for 6, and it was pretty much GG. Okay, so we made it through game 1. That was interesting. We didn't see any Death's Shadow, although I feel like our opponent was just waiting for the right time to cast it. Didn't find that time. I think graveyard removal to a degree is useful here. Though I'm not too sure about Gravedigger's Cage. Let's see if I kept it. Only because if we're able to shut down Euro with our removal, then Gravedigger's Cage just kind of becomes useless. It also hurts us in the sense that Euro can't be cast with Gravedigger's Cage open. So Gravedigger's Cage is kind of a last line. It's a last resort graveyard hate card in this deck. I'm still considering potentially swapping it for something that's a bit more one-sided, like Tormod's Crypt or Relic of Progenitus. At least there we can attack our opponent's graveyard and not necessarily ours as well. Spell Snare is still relevant here because of Tarmogoyf and potentially other 2 mana removal that our opponent has. Here I'm really just second guessing my graveyard hate. Blood Moon is still very relevant. Almost certainly. Yeah, I feel like Jace here would be not optimal. Klothys and Keranos are great closers, and Klothys also attacks the graveyard of our opponent, so to a degree, Snapcaster Mage is kind of less relevant when there's Gravedigger's Cage in the 60. So let's see how game 2 goes. Our starting hand is obviously a mulligan. This hand is better, actually. In terms of cards I want to get rid of, Keranos makes the most sense. It's just something we're not going to be casting for at least 5 turns, so there's no point in having a dead card in our hand for that long, and we could always draw it back. Thoughtseize is going to come down and ruin our Blood Moon plan. But that's alright. I'm not going to make the mistake again. This time we're going to fetch, play our Astrolabe, draw more land. I'm okay if we've drawn that land as long as it's the last for a few turns coming. We'll see. It is, although Cryptic isn't necessarily the best draw at the moment. Tarfire coming to our face. Nothing. Oh, that's interesting. Our opponent kept a greedy hand. They must have had a really good 6. I think in this case, bringing down Ice-Fang makes sense. We get an extra draw. Tarfire, that's fine. We're not going to protect our Ice-Fang, especially not at the cost of a Cryptic Command. Veil of Summer is good. Now we are in no rush to attack our opponent. It's not like we have any threats to put down anyway. Let's see what our opponent has. Death's Shadow. Alright. So that's a thing. It's just a little 1/1 right now, so we get a lightning bolt. We get a lightning bolt, and we're also able to stop any kind of non-creature spell that our opponent casts to try and save Death's Shadow. So that's pretty powerful. And our opponent decides to just quit right there. So game 2 was kind of a whiff for our opponent. We kind of had control from the get-go. Game 1 was also pretty much one-sided. Our opponent never was able to put down Death's Shadow. We were able to stop their threats either right away or a bit later. So it looks like our opponent's deck just never kind of took off, and we were able to stay in control. It's kind of what we want to do in a Temur Snow Control shell. So I was kind of happy there. We didn't get lucky necessarily in any of our draws. If anything, we just drew more lands as usual with this deck, which is just kind of horrible sometimes. But, you know, we also have to keep in mind that our Jund opponent didn't necessarily get the best draws either. This isn't the first time I've recorded a Jund matchup with this deck, and we were able to win last time as well. I think we're relatively well positioned, especially Death's Shadow variants where their mana bases are extremely greedy. So Blood Moon essentially just in general. But yeah, I think this was just still a good display of the deck. I hope you enjoyed watching it. It wasn't too long compared to other matches I post up here. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. I would appreciate it. If you enjoy my content in general, a subscription would be appreciated as well. Helps me, it lets me know that you enjoy my content and you want to see more. It also helps the community grow. Thanks, and have a good one.